All right, thank you for being here, Congressman Boss.
Thank you for having me.
If you just want to start, tell the voters a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name's Mike Bost. I am the Illinois Congressman from the Illinois 12th District. I've represented this district for 3 terms. I'm running for my 4th term. For 20 years, I served in the Illinois State Legislature. My wife Tracy and I have 11 children, three children, 11 grandchildren, and our concerns are the future of this nation. And because of that, we're going to be aggressively campaigning, asking for the people's support to go back and use our experience. And when I say our experience, because I have a wonderful staff, our experience to do what's best for the Illinois 12th and for the nation as a whole.
Awesome, thank you so much. So we just got 3 questions for you here.
Okay.
And so starting off, what is your view of the country's handling of the coronavirus pandemic, and what, if anything, should we change going forward?
All right, let's be real clear what we've done. We have done a total of 4 bills. We refer to them as 3.5, okay? The first had $175 billion in hospital money, $26.2 billion in testing, $659 billion was in that 3rd bill for PPP. The most important thing is to make sure that we keep our businesses operating, our small businesses that don't go out of business. Now, there is a 4th bill being out there that's proposed that unfortunately is being tied up with politics. My hope is that stops at the end of this election, we move forward and actually are able to provide the means that are necessary. But we've got to do more than that. We've got to make sure that we actually find that cure. We're going to be working to find that cure. That first bill had that money in there so that there are 5 companies right now that are down to the final testing. Once that's approved, the advantage of that first bill is that we can move forward and quickly distribute that out. Once we do that, we can work to get this economy back.
And that leads very well into our next question. So, kind of similar in pandemic terms, do you support a second stimulus package? And if so, is there anything in particular you'd like to see in it?
I do support a version of that. I've worked with problem solvers to make sure we come up with an idea that would be able to be supported bipartisan, bicameral, that the president himself would then sign. That has to make sure, though, we're not paying people to stay home. We've got to make sure we're stimulating the economy and making sure we're putting people back to work. Taking care of those people who have been negatively impacted and make sure we're focused on that. We also have to make sure that while we're focusing on those issues, that as we're moving forward with the plan, that as we get everybody back to work, that we make sure that we don't overstep our bounds and cost ourselves money too far into our children and grandchildren. While we're doing that, we also need to make sure our schools are open, that our local governments are funded. So we have to make sure that we can gear right back up once we get this pandemic over.
Awesome. And so this last question is focused a little more on your congressional district here.
You bet.
So with the economy in the southern Illinois area suffering, and further negative news on the horizon, like the closing of the Baldwin power plant by 2025, what is your plan to bring jobs and or protect jobs within your district?
The exact same thing that happened before COVID. We had the best economy going before COVID. We had done the tax reform bills that actually stimulated the economy. And it didn't matter what your race was, what your gender was. The numbers of unemployment was just as low as they've ever been. We need to go back to that. I believe that the economy is setting like the horses at the gate ready to run. So once we get this COVID cure, we need to make sure that we do following. We actually get that COVID cure. Then we reinvest in the economy and make sure that people are out there working. Our jobs here in Southern Illinois are a major concern. Losing those jobs at Baldwin Power Plant, we are going to be working through our staff to try to figure out what's the other answer for that, to make sure that those people who are laid off find new high-paying jobs and continue to work. I believe as we move forward, but we also have to make a commitment to our children and grandchildren, and that's to pursue the American dream.
All right, thank you so much, Congressman, for coming. All right, Mr. Lindsay, thank you so much for being here. Would you like to start off by telling people a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name's Raymond Lindsay. I'm running for Congress, and I started out as a small town guy, doing everything from mowing yards to detasseling corn and bucking hay and all those farm jobs. Then my dad was a coal miner, so I was a coal miner. My 3 grandfathers were coal miners. I was a United Mine Worker coal miner. Gave me a strong appreciation for unions and good wages. And then I went on to have a career that combined academia as well as economic development. I was a tenured professor at the University of Missouri, working throughout the state on economic and community development projects, while also teaching classes at Mizzou. And then I went on to a career in terms of entrepreneurism, started the SIU Research Park in Carbondale, and also a number of nonprofits, including one that I'm chairman of now, the largest provider of assisted living in the southern half of the state of Illinois, the Journey Assisted Living Corporation. And so have a broad background really in preparation for this job to represent voters in Congress.
All right, so first question for you of three here is, what is your view of the country's handling of the coronavirus pandemic, and what, if anything, do you think we should change moving forward?
Well, clearly the Trump administration has been a total failure in the handling of the coronavirus crisis. We will have, by the time of the election, close to 250,000 people that have died. And I know that the Trump administration, at least Donald Trump, has said that it virtually affects nobody. Well, I have a friend, his name is Scott Miller, who died, who's younger than me, and died for no good reason. And I don't think he's a nobody. I don't think those 250,000 people are nobodies. And so clearly what should have happened and what needs to happen is a comprehensive national program of leadership on the coronavirus crisis, which means everything from testing and tracing to PPE and all of those things that really go in a coordinated program. If we had done only as well as Germany in handling the coronavirus crisis, there would be 160,000 more Americans still alive. It was a failed response by the Trump administration. This election in many ways is a referendum on that failure. And we say that Mike Bost, the sitting congressman, has been silent on that failure, has failed to take any responsibility. Even Donald Trump most recently said, when asked if he would do anything different, you know what his 2 words were? Not much. I think the American people were clearly seeing in polling, feels almost 2-to-1, that this administration has failed on coronavirus and we need to go a different direction. We need a robust public health care system in this country, one that addresses things like pandemics and infectious disease. This administration blew it big time, and they must be held responsible. And that goes from the sitting president right down to the sitting congressman. We need healthcare reform. We need good healthcare. We don't need the type of failure we've seen from Washington on this issue.
All right, thank you so much. And the next question is also related to the pandemic. So do you support a second stimulus package going forward? And if you do, is there anything in particular you would like to see in that stimulus?
Yes, I definitely support a second stimulus package. I would support the most robust version that the Democratic House passed back in May. We've been waiting 4 months for another stimulus package, and Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump and Mike Bost have provided no leadership on this. McConnell's holding things up in the Senate. Donald Trump goes back and forth between ending negotiations, not wanting to do anything, to wanting something bigger than the Democrats are proposing. It's absurd, the lack of any kind of cohesion and leadership on the other side. So we need a package, and we need one especially that addresses our first line responders, our first responders, the police, as well as the fire, all of these units of local government that have been hurt because the economy has collapsed, because of the failure of the Trump administration on coronavirus. Our state, local, and local governments are hurting. They need money to keep people employed. That includes teachers as well, who depend on local taxes, property taxes here in Illinois. And so we need a clear change in terms of a stimulus package. I might say beyond that, we are probably going to need a stimulus package for the next couple of years. Money is cheap right now to borrow. It's basically, when inflation adjusted, it's actually cheaper than 0% interest. So this is a good time to borrow. Any kind of a macroeconomic plan would say now is the time to spend robustly. I will say in closing that Joe Biden's plan, which I support on the economy in terms of taxation and spending, Moody's Analytics as well as Goldman Sachs has said will produce 4.5% to 5% more economic growth over the next 4 years than Donald Trump's. That translates into 8 million more jobs in our economy. The Biden Democratic Lindsay plan is a plan that we can all support and should be supported going forward.
Awesome. So final question for you. It gets a little more local, but it's still about the economy and about jobs. So with the economy in Southern Illinois, the district that you would be representing, hurting and further negative news on the horizon, like the closing of the Baldwin Power Plant in 2025, what is your plan to protect jobs and bring jobs to this district?
We say that our plan, particularly on coal, remember, I'm a coal miner. The biggest picture in the house I grew up in was John L. Lewis, the president of the United Mine Workers, on the wall in the dining room, the largest picture in our house. And so I care about the coal miners because I am one, I was one, and my dad and my grandfathers all were. So we say, it's not about saving coal, it's about saving coal miners. Those jobs we would guarantee into the future with a 50% tax credit on the future wages and earnings of any displaced energy worker. And we're not just talking about coal miners. We have big refineries in the north end of this district, up in Wood River, Granite City area. And those people need to be taken care of. And by just having a simple plan of a 50% tax credit, and I'm flexible on this, we can virtually guarantee the future wages and adjusted for inflation of all wages and benefits of all displaced energy workers. The climate crisis is real. A lot of people don't want to hear it, but it's fact. It's science, like the coronavirus crisis. And what we need in this country is a robust transition plan to move to clean energy over the next 25 years and address the problem so that we pass on a livable atmosphere to future generations. I have 6 grandchildren. They range in age from, let's see if I can get, one of them just turned 1 the other day, last Friday actually, and the oldest is 18. So all of my grandchildren are going to have to live in an atmosphere that's 40 years down the road. And so it's very important that we address climate change. We should do it in an orderly manner that provides incentives for any rural area or energy producing area or jobs that might be displaced in the transition. This is all part of what we call a just transition that takes us into the future, takes us into a robust future, a clean energy future, which we need, but yet takes care of all those workers who may have been, who otherwise would be damaged. We say, save the coal miners. That's what we say.
All right, Mr. Lindsay, well, thank you so much for coming. Best
Thank
luck.
you.
Would you like to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, thanks for having me. My name is David Freeze. I'm running to be the next state representative in the 116th district. Real brief background on myself. I grew up here in Southern Illinois. I was born and raised here. Graduated from Chester High School. I left only because I joined the military after doing a tour in Desert Storm. Went to law school real quick, did a little time. Practiced in Chicago. My wife and I came back here as soon as we could because this is where we wanted to raise our family. And this is, and I'm running because I think that I will be the best representative for the Southern Illinois conservative values that the constituents here in Southern Illinois really are fighting for.
All right, thank you so much for that. And so we've got 3 questions for you, and the first one is kind of geared towards the election that's coming up right now. So one of the biggest things on the ballot, obviously, is the graduated income tax amendment.
Sure.
So first of all, do you support that? And if it does happen to pass, what steps would you take to protect middle-class people from having their taxes raised under that new system?
Sure. No, I'm adamantly opposed to it. Because here's what we're looking at is, like I said, they're going to change the tax system, and this is going to give them the ability to tax any income bracket at any time, raise the taxes on everybody, and this is step 1 to taxing retirement income, which I'm adamantly opposed. I mean, I've talked to a lot of seniors that are on a fixed income, and this is going to kill them. We've got our state is depopulating now. We've lost probably 150,000 people within the last 5 to 7 years. And if this goes through and they tax retirement income, retirees are gonna be the next wave of people that are gonna leave our state, which is completely unacceptable. And if I'm your state representative, I will do everything I can to maintain the current tax rate. I'm adamantly opposed to raising it. It's horrible for our state.
Gotcha. So the next question is also kind of a state finances type question. So how do you think Illinois should get its finances under control, specifically in the near term?
First thing I think we need to do is we need to stop spending money we don't have. I mean, it sounds simple. I'm on the city council in Red Bud, okay? We look at our estimated income. You know, we collect taxes, we look at that, and we don't spend money we don't have. Plain and simple, you don't, I don't. You know, like they quote balance the budget. They borrowed $5 billion to do that. Nobody can do that in their personal life, and we shouldn't do that on the state level because that bill has to be paid at some point in time. Absolutely unacceptable.
Gotcha. So the last question we've got for you is a little more focused on your potential district that you could be representing. So what is your plan to bring and or protect jobs to the Southern Illinois area, specifically in the agricultural sector?
Well, overall, we've got to, okay, we've got to get corruption out of our state. We've got to have some ethics reform, and I think that will, with that, that'll get our spending under control. Then we can lower our taxes because right now we're not a business-friendly environment. I mean, we're just not. And if they raise taxes, it's going to further chase people and small business out of our state, which is, like I said, completely unacceptable. As far as agricultural, you know, I live in Red Bud. I grew up in Chester. One of the things that I would help see would be the 4-lane connector. You know, I think that would, you know, boost business. You know, we have a lot of industry in Red Bud. You know, we're actually looking at growing that business, and I think that would be one of the things that would help.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming tonight and talking with us.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Just to start off, would you like to tell people a little bit about yourself?
Yep, I'm Representative Nathan Wrights. I took over last year for Representative Costello the middle of May. I'm from Stillville. I spent my prior 20 years at Baldwin Power Plant in various positions, 13 of it in the union and 7 in management. I have a wonderful wife, Deanna, and 2 kids, Evan and Callan. And currently I serve on several committees, obviously, in the House of Representatives. I serve on the Energy and Environment. I serve on Agriculture. I serve on Veterans Affairs and a couple others. So this is my full-time job now. I quit my job at the power plant the day after I started this. So I'm dedicated 100% of the time to the residents of the 116th District.
Awesome. So just have 3 questions for you here. First one's kind of a little more of a statewide issue. So obviously one of the biggest things on the ballot is the graduated income tax amendment. So do you support that amendment? And if so, and if it passes, what would you do to protect middle class people from having their taxes raised in the future?
So I took over right before that was actually in the legislature, and I voted to allow it to be on the ballot just because I thought it was the right choice for the constituents to have an opportunity to voice their opinion. Because right now the legislature can change the rates. The legislature could tax retirement, but in all reality, you still have to come back to the voters and tell them that you decided to change those rates or tax retirement. And it's going to be no different should this pass. You know, the rates that have been put out there, the legislature could come out and say that, you know, we want to move the bar, which would be a major fight. But if they did that, it's still going to take a vote of the legislature, and then you have to come back in 2 years and tell your constituents that we said, we're going to take it from 250 to 150, or wherever they decided to move it to. You're still going to have to come back and ultimately tell constituents that you decided to change the parameters of what they thought was set and what they voted for. And end of the day, like I said, I allowed it to be on the ballot because I thought it should be a choice. And that's what it boils down to, is a choice that the voters have, instead of the legislature having 100% control of either raising the rate or deciding to tax retirement. And that was my decision.
Awesome. Another question for you, kind of also a state politics type question. How do you think Illinois should get its finances under control in the near term?
In the near term?
Mhm.
So in the near term, it's obviously going to be a struggle because of COVID. You know, every year you have to pass a balanced budget. Whether it looks balanced or not, you have to pass a balanced budget. If you go over, obviously you're going to borrow from somewhere and it won't end up being balanced, but the budget itself has to be balanced this year. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we allowed up to $5 billion of federal borrowing at a low interest rate if needed. But also during a time like this, you also have to fund the services that people need. So, you know, you can't go out today and say we're gonna cut our way to a balanced budget in a time when we're not taking in the revenue that we should take in, because probably the number one issue you're gonna have right now with everybody losing their jobs and being out of employment is mental health service. So you can't cut a service like that. You can't cut a lot of the other services that people need at this time. There are obviously things that we can work on to, you know, save money, and none of them are going to be easy. Probably, I'm going to be brutally honest. One of the things that I would like to probably work on in a second term would be trying to eliminate CMS. CMS is just a extra process that I ultimately don't think we need. It costs every other agency within government more money to buy things, and it's not needed.
Awesome. So final question for you there, Nathan, is a little more local here in your district. So what is your plan to protect and or bring jobs to this portion of Southern Illinois, specifically in the agricultural sector?
So thankfully, this year in the capital budget, I was able to secure money for Kaskaskia River Port District in the terms of $25 million. And with that, there will be jobs in the agriculture sector because they are going to spend the money on the river. And as most people know, they're intimately involved in, you know, most everything KRPD does is involved in agriculture. Some of it's involved in power plant, but some of the projects capital projects they're going to do with this money are down at Baldwin and could lead to, you know, substantial job growth within the agriculture community. Probably one of the things that, you know, in this capital budget as well, or in this budget as well, we were able to secure funding for farmers as well, for psychiatric help if need be, which last year part of it was left out. You know, we have to try to fund and find innovative ways even to improve the number one business in Illinois, and it's obviously agriculture.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Nathan, for coming by and talking to us. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right. Well, would you start off, please, by telling us a little bit about yourself?
I'm Lucas Leifer. I'm 35 years old. I am married to Valerie Leifer. We will be married 5 years in December of this year. We have a son whose name is Henry. He is 1 year and 5 months old, and he is beginning to be starting to tear our house apart, to say the least. But we love it very much. I went to Redbud Catholic School, graduated from there in 1999, graduated from Redbud High School in 2003. I went on to Southwestern Illinois College for 2 years, and then graduated with a bachelor's degree from Southern Illinois University, Carbondale in 2008. I went on to law school in Carbondale and graduated in 2011 cum laude. I was raised in a traditional home where you learn work before play, say please and thank you out in public, and sit down and be quiet in a church pew. You send a boy with that foundation to SIU for a few years, and what you see is what you get. I love the law. I love being an attorney. I love being the assistant state's attorney. I think with my foundation, my values, my ability, and my sense of responsibility, I'm the best man for the job.
All right, and that kind of gets into our first question we've got for you, kind of a general question. What do you think are the biggest strengths that you would bring to the role of state's attorney?
My biggest strengths would be my passion and my work ethic, and probably more so my work ethic. I grew up on a small farm. I still am active on that farm today. I get to do two things I love, is be outdoors and be a lawyer. And so I've always said, and I don't want to downplay, I think I did pretty well in college, but I may not be the smartest guy in the room, but you will never outwork me. And I bring that to the office every day, and I mean that. I've got experience in Monroe County. When I became a lawyer in 2011, I stayed here. I stayed in Southern Illinois. I love Southern Illinois, and I did that for a reason. The big reason I stayed in Southern Illinois was my family, my farm, and you know, I wanted to start working for people that I knew, and it's been very rewarding to be able to work with people and see the impact that I have on my clients and on the community. And so my knowledge of Southern Illinois, of Monroe County, I've had cases in Monroe County since I became a lawyer in 2011. I've been representing anywhere from folks with small businesses. Unfortunately, I've done a divorce here and there, setting up companies, defending criminals. And so my vast knowledge and general practice in Monroe County has served me well as assistant state's attorney. And that's one of my strengths as well, is that I'm would be coming to the position from being the assistant state's attorney right now. And I think that helps me, and that I will be able to hit the ground running on day one. There will be no delay, and we'll be able to get right to work. Part of being a state's attorney is not just being the prosecutor, it's also helping out the county board and other elected offices. And as a general practitioner in the area, I've got the ability, I've got the experience to cover all the bases. I've done everything from review contracts for the roof on the building to prosecuting felonies and misdemeanors right now. And so my experience right now with that office is going to put me ahead of my opponent.
And so, as I'm sure you're aware, the caseload for the state's attorney's office here in the county has been increasing in recent years. So if you're elected and become the state's attorney, how would you adapt the office to be able to handle that increased workload?
Well, as we all know, the population in Monroe County is growing, which is a good thing. It's good to see people moving into Monroe County. That means we're doing something right. People want to live here. People feel safe here. And that's one thing I want people to know, is that I'm going to work with law enforcement, and I'm going to work as hard as I can to make sure that people continue to feel safe here, that law and order is enforced. I'm building those relationships as we speak right now with law enforcement. I sat down with Neil Rolfing before the debate, it's not really a debate, the forum this evening, to get a little bit of idea of how the cases have changed and how the caseload is growing. And you're exactly right. In recent years, the felonies have doubled. There's double the felonies that we're filing every year. And that goes hand in hand with more money being put into law enforcement and more people moving to Monroe County. Of course, there's no substitute for hard work and preparation. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to bring to the office. And there's also, we've got a county board that is very supportive of our office and very supportive of law enforcement. So if and when there's a need for additional funds or additional anything that we need, I'm sure they will be behind me. One thing we talked about doing specifically to address the drug problem, and it's not necessarily a problem, but it certainly is lingering as a problem, in that meth charges and meth arrests are increasing all the time. And so to address that, and not just meth, but controlled substances and other things, but to address that specifically, I've been speaking to Chris Hitzeman, our current state's attorney, and we've actually got the ball rolling. He actually got the ball rolling before I came in as assistant to start a specialized drug court. I think that will be very important to help people, because it's not just about punishing people, it's about helping people as well. There are people that need help, and the ones and the folks that need help deserve it. And so we're going to continue to work towards opening up that drug court and getting some of the folks the help that they need while being firm and fair and other felonies.
And that kind of leads well into our last question for you here tonight. So what if you're elected, what will be your priority for prosecuting crimes in Monroe County, specifically those more serious crimes like violent crimes or drug offenses?
Well, I'll treat everyone the same, and I'll treat every case the same. There will be no favorites. There will be, everything's a priority. Every report that comes across my desk. One thing I love about our office right now is we have an open door policy with law enforcement, and that means that whenever a police officer, a detective, anyone with our offices, Waterloo, Columbia, the sheriff's office, Valmar, whenever they got a question, they know that they just have to pick up the phone, call up and talk to Dana and say, are Chris and Lucas here today? And Dana says yes. And they don't have to talk to us. They come right up. We make time for them because that's what's important. We want to know the cases. We want to work with our law enforcement officers. We want to make sure all the bases are covered. And so that's one thing that, I think that I'm going to definitely carry on if I'm elected state's attorney, just like my predecessor has. Another thing that I think is extremely important is having a good relationship with other court personnel. Our victims advocate, very important. Our probation officer, very important. Everybody's got a role, and if everybody's working together, everybody's doing their job better, and that's what we want to continue to do, and that's what's being done right now in Monroe County. That's why it is such a great place. That's why I love being at the courthouse, and that's why I love working there. So if you elect me as state's attorney, you're going to see me continue to build those relationships that I've already started right now. You're going to see me be supportive of other offices and other elected officials. And I'm going to treat every case, every crime the same. Whether you're a victim of domestic battery, whether you're arrested for possessing meth, whether some of your property was stolen, whether you've gotten a traffic ticket, every case is important, and every case and everyone will be treated fairly and equally to ensure that justice is served.
All right, thank you so much. Thanks for coming here tonight.
Thank you.
My kids are in the Waterloo School District right now, and the two little ones do go to backyard for daycare after school and during the summer. So I am running for state's attorney because this is what I do. I have worked my whole career either for a state's attorney office when I was an assistant state's attorney for about 5.5 years, and then now as a defense counsel where I do nothing but criminal law. So I'm either worked for a state's attorney or against state's attorney offices for my entire career, which is approximately 16.5 years. So I'm highly qualified, and that's one reason I wanted to run, and also because I live here. This is my community too, and I want to make sure that we have laws that are enforced. And for those reasons, I'm asking for votes, and that's why I'm here tonight.
All right, thank you so much. So our first question for you is kind of a general one. What do you think is the biggest strength that you would bring to the state's attorney's office?
So my biggest strength is I'm a trial attorney. I'm not just a defense counsel. I wasn't just an assistant state's attorney for a long time. I am a trial attorney. I have done literally hundreds of trials in court. I've done everything from traffic tickets to murder. I have done over 50 jury trials, which for small town attorneys, that is quite a lot. I've got experience from counties that are very high criminal level counties. Currently I have my office down in Murfreesboro because we have a lot of crime in Jackson County. We have a lot of crime in Carbondale and Murfreesboro, and frankly, that keeps me busier than I want to be. Unlike Monroe County, I deal with shootings, I deal with murders, I deal with stabbings. I currently have 145 cases that I am representing people on right now, and everything from literally traffic tickets. Most of my cases are felony cases at this time. I do also a handful of what are known as JD cases, which are juvenile crimes. So I'm well versed, plus being an assistant state's attorney for 5.5 years, I have advised county boards. I know what the issues are as far as, different counties have different employee situations with unions and whatnot that they have to deal with. I've done that. I've done budgeting, I've done advising the county board, as well as all of the trial experience that I've gained. I'm not someone who, sits in an office all day and waits for clients to come in. I have been court appointed on well over 750 felony cases here in the state of Illinois. There are judges in many counties, including here in Monroe County, that trust me to do criminal defense work for indigent defendants. Judge Doyle is one of those. I have approximately 13 pending felony cases here in Monroe County right now, on top of everything else that I do.
All right, sounds good. So next question for you here is about the caseload, which you talked about a little bit there.
Sure.
So the caseload is going up now in Monroe County a little bit, and I'm sure you're aware of that trend. So given that, how would you adapt the state's attorney's office to be able to best operate with this increased workload?
Well, first you have to understand what a state's attorney does. So in Illinois, if it's a traffic case, so say your average speeding ticket, the police officer directly files that with the circuit clerk's office. Anything above a traffic ticket, all your misdemeanors or your felonies, they go through the state's attorney's office, which means the state's attorney has to read the police report, decide what charges that person should be charged with, and that is how a person is actually charged with a crime in the state of Illinois. So you want a state's attorney who has reviewed thousands of police reports. I mean, it's almost something I do on a daily basis and have done for almost over 16 years at this point. So you want someone like that. You want someone who can look at a police report, say, hey, this is good police work. These are the charges that police work can prove if I have to go to trial, which is where my trial experience does come in handy. I'm not someone who's just gonna, willy-nilly file a felony charge against someone, because merely the charge sometimes can ruin a person's life. So you really have to have someone who has the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities to know this is what the person needs to be charged with, because this is what I can prove at trial. So that's where that starts. And I think my experience is second to none. You've never had a state's attorney with this much experience ever. Even Chris Wright, when he was state's attorney for 16 years, didn't do a third of the trials that I've done. He didn't handle numerous felonies. He was filing less than 200 felonies a year. That's not a lot. The crime we have here, if you are the victim, it matters. It matters to you what the charge is. It matters to you that that person is in jail when they should be in jail. It matters that you don't want to be victimized again. And to do that, you need an effective state's attorney. You don't need some good old boy who's here to make that person happy and this person happy. You need someone who's gonna get in there and do the job like it should be done. And I'm that person.
All right, and then last question for you here. What is your priority when it comes to prosecuting cases in Monroe County, specifically as it relates to some of the more serious ones that you've touched on, like violent crimes or drug offenses?
Okay, say the question again.
Yeah. What is your priority when it comes to prosecuting cases in Monroe County, specifically as it relates to violent crime or drug offenses?
Sure. Well, the first priority is, the state has passed numerous, they call it Bail Reform Act situations. So the first issue that I would prioritize is we want to make sure people charged with violent crimes stay in jail and then get a sentence that they're deserving of. There's very few violent crimes in Monroe County, so it's very easy to prioritize those. You've had one murder in at least the last 2 or 3 years. That's just unheard of. I work in a county where Carbondale Police, week before last, had 5 separate shootings they're investigating. That's a week. That's nothing. If that happened in Monroe County, we'd be losing our minds. We don't have that type of violent crime, and that's what I'm used to dealing with. So it will be easy to prioritize the violent crime. Secondly, we have a drug problem in Monroe County. And none of us can get around that. We have to do the work to establish an effective drug court program that's going to have to be prioritized. I don't think my opponent would bat an eye at that. He knows it needs to get done, as well as Mr. Hitzman, who will be Judge Hitzman December 1. We have to make that a priority. We have to follow through with those services and get that program established, because it's only going to help. The drug issue brings in drug dealers from other elements that we don't want here, which leads to more crime. Hello, Columbia. Your cars get broken into if you leave them unlocked. Why? Because the drug dealers have came here. They see what's going on. They know easy targets when they see them. Your homeowner insurance is going to go up if your cars keep getting stolen. So please, lock your doors. Don't leave your purse in your car. Don't leave your valuables. Don't leave your guns in your car. It's simple things, that we don't think of as small towns, but the drug addiction issues have brought elements to our county that don't need to be here, that are wreaking havoc on our citizens.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Green, to start off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, first I want to thank everybody here. I want to thank the Monroe County Independent, Republican Times, the Chamber of Commerce, and certainly the Farm Bureau for hosting this. And then I want to thank my wife. After 45 years we've been married. She's a Hoffman from home. Our children were born here in Monroe County, and our grandchildren love it. I grew up on a small farm, and if I was going to go to college, I had 3 brothers and 2 sisters. I had to put myself through. I was fortunate enough to get a job with 520 Operating Engineers, and I worked as a heavy equipment operator, put myself through school, graduated with BS, got a Master of Art, Master of Business Association, MBA, thank you. After that, and got to work with a company, one of the world's largest industrial mineral companies, and I've been with those for 35 years, learned everything about strategic planning, marketing, budgeting, capital planning, and labor relations. And I'm a candidate for the citizens of Monroe County, not just the Republicans, Democrats, Independents. I don't care. I'm a candidate for you.
All right, thank you so much for doing that. So our first question for you here is what do you think are some key issues facing Monroe County, for example, like the budget, and how would you tackle those serious issues if you were elected?
Well, first and foremost, I think one of the serious issues facing us is safety. And you know, we're very fortunate to live in the county that we live in. We've got some of the greatest school systems here. We've got great law enforcement, both at the sheriff's level and at the city levels. And we need to give them our full support, not only the sheriff's department, but all of our first responders. Because believe it or not, what's going on around the nation is on our back door. And we got to be thankful that we have what we have here and really take care of this county. And I fully support them and law enforcement and all the first responders.
Terrific. So our next question for you is about the local economy. So if you're elected, what is your strategy for promoting the economy, including agriculture, and what is your strategy for promoting economic development here? Specifically, would that involve any sort of tax incentives?
Well, first off, we're a little bit behind the 8 ball with the governor being where he is and the state of Illinois and the situation it is, and the workers' comp situation being what it is. We're not real attractive to business. We do have a TIF program here that probably could be further enhanced. I need to study that more, but I know we have that. I think we have some opportunities that we could, working with our Economic Development Commission, I would work with them hand in hand to try to further promote business. I have dealt with expanding companies and dealt with them on negotiating companies coming into our different towns. I've built multi-million-dollar operational plants, so I know what it takes to do that. We have the infrastructure, we have the river, we have the interstate highway system, so we have opportunities here. The farmers, they're in a little different situation here because I know I hear a lot about the land assessed value going up, and they have to understand we don't control that. That came out of Springfield, but they have the Farm Bureau to help lead them to get their voices heard up there, and they need to do that, and I'd be happy to work with them, help organize some of that and get their voice heard up there, because I think there's some things that can be done there.
Terrific. So next question for you is about some place right here in Waterloo. What is your assessment of the county's continued ownership of Oak Hill here in Waterloo?
Interesting. Now I've had nothing to do with the Oak Hill, and I'm coming into this and I'm learning a lot. From what I've seen so far on the surface and looking at the budgeting, it is sustaining itself. It hasn't been a drain on the county, although there are tax appropriations that go to help support it. It is owned by the county. With my business background, I've spent 35 years in the industrial mineral industry, and I've done everything from budgeting all the way up to cost control, labor relations and all. That would need a very careful look. I'd have to study it and look at what amount of the appropriations are coming from the county. Is it being handled like a business? Can we streamline it? Can we do things? We've got a great person there in Coons right now. Very happy to see him there. I think there's probably some undiscovered opportunities there. As far as the rumors out there, well, we could sell it. Before that would ever happen, I know it's a decision of the county board, but in my position, before that would happen, that is something that would have to be discussed with the citizens, and I would suggest it be a referendum before we ever make a unilateral decision on that. But I think we've got a state-of-the-art facility down there, and we should be proud of it. But I need to know more about it, and apply some of my business background to see just how it's running and what we can do to improve.
Fantastic. And our final question for you comes courtesy of the Monroe County Independent here. How would you, as commissioner, work toward ending racism in Monroe County?
Work towards ending racism.
Correct.
Are you gonna just call it racism, or are you calling it systemic racism?
Systemic racism.
Systemic. Define
However
systemic.
it goes north and south.
Define systemic.
Just the underlying, racism that you have here. How would you end it or improve, how would you, maybe welcome more people of color? With our demographics are 97% white. Maybe welcome more people of color, whether it's Latins or African.
Well, I think Monroe County, quite frankly, I think Monroe County is open to anybody that wants to come here and make a living. And I have no problem, I don't care what color they are. You know, I haven't got a big bone in my body. I grew up in a community where our neighbors were blacks and they were just best friends. We partied at their house, they came to our house, we had Halloween there. I went all the way through high school and, you know, Southern Illinois University, I've seen it all up there. But I don't see any reason, you know, you've got to be, racism is just a tough situation because I don't think Monroe County is as racist as people like to think it is. And I saw the peaceful protest out here, that went very smoothly. We didn't have anybody come in. You don't see the police force using brutality. They're schooled, they know what they're doing. I think this county is wide open for people to come in here, and I don't think anybody's going to tell them not to. I've seen high school students that are black, Hispanic, and I've seen no evidence of any problem there. And I'm certainly open to that as a county. There would be no prejudice involved. I don't see how there could be. I mean, I wasn't raised that way. I was raised in a Christian church, Christian background, and you know, they're all God's children. I'm wide open to it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming by tonight.
Thank you.
Great.
Hello, I am Dwayne Langhorst. I'm Democratic candidate for Monroe County Commissioner. I reside at Fultz, Illinois. I am a Air Force veteran, American Legion member, Post 622. I have my wife, Michelle, my 3 daughters, and 4 grandchildren. I'm a member of Backstoppers, Masons, Masonic Lodge 787 here in Waterloo. I belong to Our Lady of Good Counsel Church. Thank you. I could use your support. Thank you.
All right, Dwayne, thank you so much for being here. Just got a few questions for you. We're going to start with kind of a pretty general one. What are some key issues you see facing Monroe County, for example, the county budget, and how would you plan on tackling them if elected?
Well, with the COVID going on right now, I'm sure, in fact, I know for a fact that Monroe County is in the shortfall of the sales tax.
Mm-hmm.
So that is going to affect even the budgets in the coming years, in the years to come. The way to correct that is to watch spending, maybe even some cutbacks, like raises for the employees and stuff. Maybe we could maybe not give them a raise, put a hold on the raises till the Monroe County gets back on their feet with the money issues. It's a setback not just for them, it's a setback for the whole community. And I think that I can help Monroe Countyans out, and I can balance the checkbook.
Awesome. All right, next question. What is your strategy for promoting the economy, including agriculture and economic development here in Monroe County? And specifically, would your plan include any sort of tax incentives for companies?
Well, I think tax incentives are good. That way it brings business to the area. But there again, people don't like taxes. They don't like to raise them. Taxes are a big issue. I am pro-union, and I'd like to see all the work that goes here in Monroe County go union. There's a lot of union people in this county. And therefore, I'd like to see more job growth, maybe some industrial projects here in the area, companies that can come. We could always use the business. We could always use the revenue. And like I said, I've been here since 1974, and I remember when little John Deere, Noby's John Deere had a little lot here on the corner just south of here, and now look at it. So, thank you.
Awesome. Shifting gears a little bit here for this next question, what's your assessment of the county's continued ownership of Oak Hill Senior Living and Rehabilitation Center here in Waterloo?
I think we need to keep Oak Hill. It's an asset to the county, and it's making money. I know they're going through a little tough times now with the COVID, but I think we can get over this. I think we need to keep Oak Hill personally. It's an asset, and then we can make other adjustments elsewhere. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, last question for you, and this one comes courtesy of the Monroe County Independent. How would you, as commissioner, work toward ending racism in Monroe County?
Racism, that's a tough issue there, racism. I think some people bring it to extremities. They go a little overboard on it. This world is changing today. It's changing fast, and you're having more organizations and groups that are jumping on the not so-called the bandwagon, but jumping on the movement, to end racism. I think it goes both ways. It's definitely an issue that needs to be recognized, and me as Monroe County Commissioner, I will do all that I can to prevent racism. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.